July 30th, 2025, IPS evening deprogram. Didn't bring my mic, but I think this one's fine. If it's not, let me know. I'm considering putting the Penguinotti script through the Google Gemini generative video, line by line, because the character consistency is there. And the script itself, which I even had ChatGPT turn into a novel, not published, but really just so I can work with this concept and get more details for the AI rendering. It's at the point where I could probably put it into production. Which means I need to buy the premium version, which gives me about 30 days to complete it. So I'm getting everything in a row first before I upgrade. But I am gonna go for it. I made a short ad out of some clips I'd rendered randomly for tank fuel. Tank fuel, it's accelerant for the think tank. If you don't know what tank fuel is, it's a watermelon flavored pre-workout supplement, which you can find at IPS.monster. I am pushing supplements, but that's only because it's a great way to promote the channel as any other product, but the label space itself is plenty of room to work with. No, it looks like a Sonic across the street, but it's actually a strip mall full of thrift stores. And I think there's a Chinese restaurant or something. They got sushi dumplings. I've never been there. And you got cash for titles, although the word titles is kind of faded, so it looks like it says cash for something else. I thought I saw the Breaking RV go by, because Breaking Bad, the documentary, was filmed here. And there's a tour where you get in the Breaking Bad RV, go around town. They hand out like fake, but I think that's the main thing. No big deal. Yeah, lost the connection. Look, it's YouTube. I don't know what it is, honestly. I'm thinking about getting a different phone, like Cricket or something, Androids, and just use it only for live streaming, nothing else. Because I think this one's just put through too much stress. It's experiencing cognitive overload. Like when you have too many menu items, so you can't even read it. That's why I don't do drive-thrus. Everything is like 50 different versions, and each thing has 50 options. It's like, no. No, buying poison and junk food shouldn't be that complicated. But anyway, someone responded to one of the CEOs getting killed as she had been Luigi'd. So I thought that the shooter, the way he was walking across the plaza with the gun, looked like Michael B. Jordan from Sinners, an anti-hero who in the movie kills the Klan, who are also vampires or something. But, or maybe they weren't vampires. There's a friend of mine over there. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know who the hell that was. But I thought, you know, this might have some correlation. And yeah, it does seem, just bringing up Luigi as class warfare. By the way, the world of Luigi Mangione fan fiction is blowing up for some weird reason. Wattpad and otherwise. It's just chick lit. You know, like romance stuff. It's not action. It's not some action hero taking out CEOs and fighting the system. No, he's like in jail. And the protagonist, and it's like that type of fan fiction where they don't put, where you're supposed to be in the story. So instead of the character's name, it has parentheses YN. I just learned about this for your name. So you can think of yourself as being in the story. Like your name. You're going down the hallway and they let you in the cell to search the prisoner, and it's Luigi. Like that kind of stuff. But it's hugely popular. It's really strange. But the word Luigi is a thing now. Do you remember how the truthers thought that the Luigi event was evidence of some kind of simulation theory? Like, we're in a video game because Luigi. I'm like, what the hell? You know, you could have predicted Luigi by watching The Madness. We just lived through Mountainhead, which is based on Musk very openly. We lived through Top Gun with the whole Iran, the war in Iran, World War III, which is like last month. Nobody remembers it. Do you all remember World War III? How worried everybody was about nukes and stuff? And how we didn't care? We just like, I hope it's Seattle. Like when everybody's wringing their hands and they're praying to their God constructs about nukes and they're scared, I'm like, I hope it hits Seattle because I want the most entertaining outcome to bounce off of. And it would be consistent with the propaganda buildup. And again, we're not in the business of making predictions, but we are working with a model that offers some predictability on the premise that has been tested and validated that the news, not all of it obviously, nobody thinks in those terms, but the major transformative psychological operations dominate the news cycles by design. Our collective history is being told by the biggest liar in the room. What's up, Jamarian May, Mizell, Penguinati, Auto Hoaxer, Ears Up, King Ravana. Oh yeah, 8-4 is on the horizon. And there's a build up to 8-4. The 8-4 story is all about Trump versus Obama, 1776 versus 1619. A conflict of visions and the subtext wherein Obama and the deep state try to take out Trump and he survived. That's why Trump took down Obama's portrait from the White House and put up a painting of himself with his fist raised, fight, fight, fight. And that's why he just called for the arrest of Obama, the indictment of Obama. That's like right now, he's telling his followers that's going to happen. Meanwhile, he's about to pardon Diddy, and he's turned his entire woke right base against him. And I think he's made Putin mad, but if you look around, it's pretty clear that the stage is set for this drama to unfold. And if you don't know about the Obama-Trump thing, in every instance, or I'd say in 90% of the instances where the Trump character in a movie dies, there's a corresponding character related to Obama. And oftentimes, it's played by Giancarlo Esposito. Like, in all the movies, he's the antagonist to the Trump character. And this goes back. This goes back years. It even goes back to Do the Right Thing. Synchro Morpheus found some fascinating connections between Do the Right Thing and the Obama-Trump thing, which really came into existence with the birther movement. When Trump came out as a demagogue, you know, hyping up the Tea Party, that's when the Tea Party was somewhat sane. And they were known for cleaning up after themselves at rallies, and they weren't all fixated on this cult of personality. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to show that Obama's from Kenya, and I'm going to release the 9/11 files. He's been saying that for a long time. What's up, Thomas Hughes? So 8-4 is a fascinating date. It's 216th day of the year. It's also the birth date of Hakeem Jeffries. It's Obama's birthday. It's 216 is 6 cubed, so 6 times 6 times 6. The number of years, according to Pythagoras, it's the Phoenix cycle, so it's the number of years between incarnations. So you have all these correlations with that date: death, rebirth, 666, Phoenix. But also, more specifically, that number is some kind of a code that has been super connected to everything related to the Trump shooting. In fact, 84 days after Trump was shot, he shows up again in Butler. And the New York Post called him Braveheart. Which is funny because if you looked at the photo where he's got his fist pumping, it was based off the Braveheart cover. And Mel Gibson, director of Braveheart, is a huge meta-scripter for the MAGA camp, connected with Jim Caviezel, Passion of the Christ. You know, Jim Caviezel, which I spell with a Q because he's a huge Q pusher, which it makes sense. It makes sense when you look at the role of Catholicism on the woke right and their fundamental view about blood libel, which they've repackaged as Q. So Jim Caviezel was 33 when he played Jesus in Passion of the Christ, and during the 5th take of the Sermon on the Mount, I guess he's that bad, he got struck by lightning. God tried to kill him. They say he died and they resurrected him. and he has permanent lung damage. This is all there. I mean, they claim this. But honestly, if a guy playing Jesus dies on the set and resurrects, they would have released that footage. They haven't released it. But I'm just bringing it up because Mel Gibson and the Braveheart thing was attached to the Trump shooting in the iconography. In fact, at the beginning of the year, there was that movie called Flight Risk, directed by Mel Gibson, starring Mark Wahlberg. And it had this scene of the plane falling from the sky. And I said, hey, get ready for some aerial disasters. And that's what we had. Plane crashes, plane hitting the helicopter. And the cover for the movie Flight Risk had a scene. If you turn it sideways, it kind of looked like the part in the event where they were pulling people out of the water. And by the way, there was a drill for that, as the event itself, the plane hitting the helicopter, happened during a continuity of government drill. You'll notice a correlation, not just between the entertainment and the fake news events of the day, but drills. Drills are huge. So anyway, we have this shooter we've been talking about. There was oh yeah, he was from Vegas, which made me think of the Vegas shooter. There's some connection here with that. The Blackstone, Black Rock connection's been discussed. Blackstone is like Black Rock. I think they have 330 billion. Bunch of 33s all over this stuff as usual, which are being noticed. And I just take it to mean hoax code. But there's an esoteric side of it, especially when you get into the symbolism of the black cube, Black City, Nevada, the Burning Man, the 33-year-old martyr motif, which is quite extensive. So we have another guy, he's not 33, he's 27, but he goes to the 33rd floor. But there's more to it in terms of the Masonic symbolism in this particular event. The 345 Park Street, 345 refers to the 47th problem of Euclid, which is built into the 3rd degree Masonic lecture. So there's some deeper stuff to it, but there's enough there to say it's fake. Just the fact that the story was used to advance the Luigi class warfare narrative says it's fake. Now, as far as the the NFL, the football thing, I don't know the full connection. They're blaming mental illness, and I believe their governor called for a national ban on assault rifles. So mental illness is an easy scapegoat. That last shooter was a brony, like a My Little Pony fanatic. But the reason for the mentally ill rather than Islamic or white nationalist terrorist is that mentally ill can be anywhere, anytime. And the premise here is that there are some people in society who will become radicalized and will react to stochastic violence, and therefore we must all censor. It's the same argument that justified locking down healthy people because they're healthy super spreaders. Well, if you're mentally sound, you might be super spreading ideas that the mentally unsound will catch, and it will cause them to blow shit up. They've made the argument, they've set the narrative template, and the people will march along with it. They will demand censorship for their own protection, because words are literally bullets. Ideas are bombs, and we have to be kept safe at all costs. I call this the safe space age. I mean, look at the progression from safe spaces on college campuses to protect students from right-wing mind viruses. Then it became social distancing and quarantine to create safe spaces from carriers of literal viruses. Then they conflated the carriers of literal viruses with the anti-vax right-wing mind viruses. So same political spectrum has dangerous ideas that we have reasons to be physically separated from. And now they're creating the same type of framework for the internet and setting the premise for locking down the internet. You don't get on unless your mind is vaxxed, which means you're not anonymous anymore, you're tracked. And you're gonna be masking, which really just means self-censorship. Yeah, the 8-8 numerology with the Russian earthquake. So there's been a lot of 8-8 stuff. We talked about this with the twins in Sinners, then the twins with the Austin Metcalf stabbing. And the significance of the Pope and Klaus Schwab, both 88, stepping down from the world stage at the same time. One head of the secular, global World Economic Forum with the 666 in the logo. And then the Pope, who has all kinds of 666 all over their getup. And he, quote, died. So I'm like, okay, twins and 88s, what is with this? And then we have Hulk Hogan, HH, 88, connected to Trump. And the number 88's deeply connected with the Twin Towers and Trump, and all the Back to the Future predictive programming about the towers. Reference to the Twin Pines, but when you go into it, okay, so there's a deeper level here. Because Hulk Hogan, right before he died, and again, he died as we went into Leo, and we're hitting Lionsgate, thank you, Mazel, which is on 8/8, which is when Sirius aligns with the Leo. There's like a portal. That's the date of the fires in Maui. So before Hulk dies, his number one fan dies, who dresses like him. So you have this twin thing brought up again. So like, what is with this twin and the 88 stuff? So again, I don't have specific answers, but I'm just noticing the patterns. Seba says, what can we do about the secret societies if we want a better world? Every big group that grows gets halted like motor gigs. Yeah, well, this is not a woke operation where you're trying to wake people up. I'm not convinced it's a bad thing. We might be in the early stages of a global and permanent benevolent dictatorship. This might actually be a good thing. I don't know. So I'm not in the process of trying to prescribe solutions, nor am I a hopium addict or pushing the idea that if 10% of us wake up, the 100th monkey syndrome about psychic monkeys means that if you teach one monkey something, another monkey miles away will learn how to do it. It's absurd. It's not true. But the truther movement believes that if they can wake up a certain number of people, everybody will wake up. It's like, you guys aren't awake. You've been given a false paradigm. They really do. They massage their egos. They pat them on the back. Alex Jones is like, people are waking up. You guys are so awake. Keep on spreading the awakening. Meanwhile, they're spreading alternative propaganda that only deepens the mind war's effects. Red pill truthers are mind war casualties. They're not like philosophers who figured some shit out and now they're walking around enlightened. No, they're paranoid, they're scared, they're easily triggered, and they're casualties of the mind war. And they're carriers of tons of bad ideas. Candace Owens is having this fascinating confrontation with the president of France over her theory about his wife being a man. But it gets weirder because now she's saying that the president's wife was actually the brother who... No. The president's wife, the original one, died, and then the brother replaced her. So it's getting into this really wild area. It's like too many red pills, too quick, too eager to swallow the QAnon stuff. These are belief clusters. And if you accept one premise, you might inadvertently accept a lot of other things. But it just seems like truth is secondary, really, to everything else here. And even if she's correct, there's no way it's going to come out. And I'm thinking, I believe we're looking at another Sandy Hook thing, like with Alex Jones. Sebas, I have a question. What do you mean by better world? I mean, it's measurably better than it was just a few years ago. I don't see where it's worse, except in the imagination of the conspiracy theorists and the far left grievance mongers. It's not a coincidence that the far left and the far right are both just angry at the world and mad at the people who aren't angry. If you're not angry, you're not paying attention. No, if you're angry, then Big Brother put his puppet strings into you and he's triggering you. The correct response when you're analyzing the available information should be, if anything, a sense of peace. I'm at peace with the world, and I'm not the least bit threatened. There's a moth, you might see it in a minute. I've been joined. I'm not threatened by weapons of mass destruction, and you know they're running out of ideas. because now they're hyping up the idea that there's going to be an alien invasion next month and the UFO crowd are out again. Nothing's going to shut them up. But something else too, the UFO crowd, they're not ufologists. It's technically a superstition. And we need to start identifying these things properly. Okay, Sebas, I have kids. I want the world better for them. I see. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not a pessimist. And I've only felt like things have been getting easier. It might just be me. I mean, financially, things are always going to be difficult. There's always competition, and AI is shaking things up. But I just see a lot of opportunities opening up. Like the fact that we're almost on the third set. So we have more than 24 PSYOP trading cards in circulation. More than 600 individual cards have sold, and we're about to double that next month. To me, that would not have been possible a year ago. That's only because I've been keeping up with AI and all of its capabilities, and I've tried to, really AI max for the IPS. And this is also improving other areas. So I kind of think that we've been given a leveling of the playing field. But I don't think this is really any more of a dire circumstance than for example, I mean, it's almost to the point where it's just the state religion. It's how they maintain order. I don't know if it's something to, quote, be against. And all of the anti-positions are compromised. And you can't just take one anti. Like, I'm going to oppose geoengineering. Okay, when you oppose geoengineering, you're not just opposing that one issue. Because that issue rests on the premise that the secret government's doing it as part of a communist takeover, and they're blaming the capitalism. So you can't really have any of these red pill opinions in isolation. Seba says, I'm not a pessimist, but I don't believe the people above have the best plan with us. Well, at least they're not killing people. Look, nobody died, nobody cried at fill-in-the-blank school shooting. If that doesn't make your day, I don't know what will. Because all those children's lives were just made better because I unalived them. I call it the secret society network. It's a security clearance society. It's not really about the old Masonic mumbo jumbo, archaic symbolism, skulls and bones and coffins. I think it's a little more corporate now. He says, on every TV channel, they show a man on high heels. Yeah, well, the moral panic, you may feel it, whatever, it goes against your Christian values or something, but even the moral panic stuff is part of the mind war. If they're trying, like, for example, some singer went on TV at the awards with the devil horns on, and everyone is like, oh, it's satanic. And it's like, well, the only people mad at that are the people who fell for Pizzagate. So they're doing what you would call like weaponized anthropology. They're figuring out what will trigger this demographic, what will offend them, how do we blaspheme their sensibilities. And so I just don't get involved with it. I don't react to any of it. It doesn't really happen in my real life anyway. The internet is certainly not real life. And that's not an oversimplification, because the primary way that they augment our internalized simulation of the world, or schema, your version of the world is your perceptions, your background, your cultural framework, your education and your experience, all these things, your moods, all taken together. But the augmentations primarily come through the mass media. And so if they're shining a light on something for you to pay attention to, it's because they're getting a reaction out of you. So if you're mad about the fashion on TV, I would say that your priorities have been screwed because you've been made to care about something inconsequential that probably doesn't reflect in your real life. Okay, looks like I'm in an area here where people are making some commercial exchanges. What's up, X322? Excellent work. I saw your ChatGPT renderings. Lean Dion says, the psychological war is unrelenting. Lots of Normans are being traumatized by believing it all. That's true. And look, I don't think it's a good thing, but I don't think it's no, it's literally no different than God-fearing. You want your people to be God-fearing so you can control them with your priesthood, maintain your divine mandate to rule. And so now you have this new paradigm where instead of being God-fearing, you're nuke-fearing. You're planet-killer asteroid-fearing, pandemic-fearing. So they've introduced a whole new set of God constructs that represent judgment, apocalypse, weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, these things are all there to take the place of the fear of God. Government is the new God, media is the church. And there's only one religion. There's only one government. I mean, there's many, but they're all pretty much subsets of the one. Like this New World Order thing was achieved long before any of us were born. We're just witnessing a new iteration of it being implemented. And it has to do with the astrology, because these people are, when I say they write history in advance, it's global, it's central, it's a worldview monopoly. It is the new monotheism. But, you know, obviously the day-to-day news is going to be a little more nuanced. They have broad strokes. But, you know, I could conceivably, I'm comfortable saying that they plan the news in terms of decades, in broader strokes, centuries, but they probably go by millennia. Seba says they learn that yes, they teach us that we're monkeys with big egos. Yes, they teach us, they give us a worldview that fits the paradigm they've given us, which turns us into animals. And nothing against animals, but the premise here is that we arose from the ground and our consciousness is a byproduct of this process. And the other idea is that if we're spiritual beings primarily descending into matter, it has a whole other set of presuppositions. In other words, do we have a soul, or is the search for the soul, or the desire to believe we have one, just a result of us being insecure because life has no meaning and everything is chaos? I happen to think that we are given a limited paradigm for a reason. For the same reason that you can find instances of like the lower class not allowed to read, the education being the privilege of the elite, which gives this knowledge disparity, power disparities, ruling over the ignorant. That's one of their main things. And now it's not illiteracy that provides this level of advantage to the elite, but it's the visual illiteracy that we have all been subjected to through media. So our worldview is just ultimately controllable. We don't know real from fake. We need their priesthood to discern it for us. But I think my objective here is to find those who've already figured out that the mainstream media and the alternative media is a duopoly, and that outside of it is a perspective that takes into account psyops, media fakery, psychological warfare, and what I term the metascript. And I think there are enough of us that we can kind of work on this from there. But the idea of waking people up is fallacious, and you can't do it. You know, I'm an inactivist for a reason. Trying to gather a bunch of people around because you can figure out a psyop makes zero sense, because the way people perceive these things are, these are anomalies. Oh, like this conspiracy was done by this country to cause these circumstances. And so they look at the big conspiracies as these anomalous things that happen once in a while. And I call it the forest of fakery. Look, Alex Jones will show you 5 or 6 fake trees and make a big hullabaloo about it and make a lot of noise. Look at these fake trees. But he will prevent you from noticing that the entire forest is fake. Jermaine says, what are the steps of the IPS broadcasting getting back to where it needs to be? I'm trying to get into an art studio, or even I mean, just really, I just need to get into a new place. The headquarters had some issues. Yeah, I was able to access it 24/7, but I need, in order to produce the artwork, better lighting, a little more wall space, running water, and the ability to make noise if I'm going to broadcast 24/7 without worrying about making the hypnotherapist or the chiropractors mad. You know, it's an office space with thin little walls. But yeah, it's just a matter of time. I'm saving up. So any purchase you make of PSYOP trading cards is going to this project. But I've made some adjustments so that it's possible to maintain continuity of research. And I may be producing more video. I've just been focusing on some artwork. I've been thinking, well, there's a pretty big local market for stuff. So it's a temporary lull in activity. But once I get into a place, I have it in mind to spend 8 hours a day on this, which is where I used to be. You know, it's not broadcasting the whole time, but there's a lot more research. The Discord's a lot more active, and I recently reactivated the Discord. So when we get up and running again, things will be moving at a much faster rate. I'll have the 24/7 live stream running again. This time I'm going to be running it from remote servers. I have some ideas to simplify things so I can do everything remote. I also have Auto-Hoaxology 101, 3rd edition in the works. I'll have that before the end of August. Seba says, no nukes, geoengineering, or chemtrails for me. Okay, so if you get rid of all of the weapons of mass destruction from the mainstream, and you don't buy into any of the anti-positions, then what are you in resistance of? Are you resisting the fact that there's a worldview monopoly? Because we've always had competing worldviews. It's just different religions, different sets of myths. But my approach here is, let's get as many as we can on this subject, because there's a lot to be looked at analytically, systematically. Yeah, Auto-Hoaxology will be a documentary. And I do think that making a film out of the Penguinotti script is 100% doable now. I need about... No, make it into a play. You know, I considered this before. There's a couple of theaters here in town, and I thought, you know, I bet I could, if I had the money, if I crowdsource it, we could pay for someone to do Newsbenders. You know, Newsbenders from 1968. But I thought, okay, so what if we did one called the Metascripters, where it's like the Newsbenders, but if it were presented in 2025. So you're moving up in CNN or something, and then you're told about PSYOPs. Yeah, this is how we fake stuff. This is the future that we have planned. Oh, and if you talk about it, the capsule in your head will blow up. You'll have an aneurysm. Yeah, all the energy spent resisting this thing could be spent on your own life, your own thought processes, and reverse engineering the madness. See, that's what we're doing. We're deconstructing this thing. But if you really want to, you know, you want to shake, I'm calling it, there's a paradigm shock to the system that needs to happen. And it's not that I think you can go wake people up, but it's all about sending a strong enough signal so everybody who's figured this out gravitates towards us, towards the parallel media ecosystem. Because the more people we have gathered in this niche, the more incentive there is for content creators to join. And content creators will obviously be held to the standards of MSM-, which has been clearly defined in Auto-Hoaxology. And if you're not MSM-, it means that you're an unwitting propaganda mule. That you lost the moral high ground, the intellectual high ground, and you likely adhere to a number of superstitions and paranoias. Seba says, I'm part of the deconstruction, not waking people up. People see me as crazy. See, nobody knows that I'm crazy. Like in my real life, I know how to, I just plug right into the MSM box. I don't even go MSM plus. I will rally against those types. I can be woke around my woke friends. I can be woke right around other people. I can be blue pill. See, I'm an alien anthropologist. That's kind of how I'm approaching this thing. And so you can talk to somebody in MSM plus as long as you understand their operating system, which is a belief system. Wokeism is essentially a belief system. It's about a certain framework that puts reality into a certain dynamic where it's us versus them, and this is who the them are. Each different variant of woke has a different them. Reptilians, this ethnic group, or white people. But I don't think it makes any sense to lose power and alienate people and make them think you're crazy. Because we know they're crazy. We know the people who adhere to the MSM plus worldview, they're Trumans, they're dupes, they're fools. We know they're crazy because they've had a break with reality to the point where they're essentially subjectivists. So given this, they're in no place to judge you insane. That is a great sound system. You hear that? Now, okay, so the objective here is we build up the MSM minus ecosystem where we're not measuring ourselves up against the mainstream or alternative. We're not trying to curry the favor of the mainstream or get the approval of the red pillars. We're trying to burn their system down. This has to be a disruption. So the red pill pushers, like I took the wrench away from a friendly red pillar that I know, and I took her wrench because she's pushing anti-vax and anti-geoengineering. It's like, you know, you could have those positions, but that means you're part of a belief system and you're on the other side. You're my enemy. No offense, but you're my enemy. If you're pushing PSYWAR, PSYOP prop, or agitprop, psychological operation propaganda, like, hey, you should be afraid of street lamps and birds. Like, if you're pushing that stuff, and here we are trying to clear things up, trying to demystify the media, take the fear out of all their fear pills, then yeah, you're on the other side. And we should be fine calling people out. Hey, you're superstitious. Or you're programmed and you're a mind war casualty. You know, we let people call us crazy or say, oh, you're wrong, or you're absurd for thinking that predictive programming is real. It's like, okay, well, their ignorance really blinkers them. And one thing I don't really have any patience for are straw man arguments. If you offer a straw man argument against something that we're promoting here, you're just dismissed from class. You should be steel manning. You should be taking down the best, strongest version of the other person's argument. Every aspect of it. Just uproot the thing. I've identified more than 9 logical fallacies built into anti-geoengineering. You have to uproot these things mercilessly because they will come back like weeds. So the people who are, oh, you guys just say everything is fake and they leave it at that, they walk away thinking everything is real. And they walk away with a non-victory because they did a straw man which proffers no nuance or understanding. You know, incredulity protects people from looking into ideas that might contradict them. Incredulity is worthless. Instead, you should be skeptical, which means you can entertain a hypothetical, you can examine the structure of the argument, and then you can burn it down. But it's like this is a controlled demolition. You have to understand the architecture to take it down. And if you don't do a thorough takedown, these structures will remain. The world stage is not the literal world in the dirt and the ground all around us. No, the world stage is the mental construct that they've given us. That's what we're burning down. Now, there's another area of discourse, paranormal, that's not conspiracy, where you have a lot of people caught up, and I haven't really put my sights on it, because these are, more or less admitted people, myths that people are into, ghost stories, paranormal. But it is interesting to look into these things and see what they rest on, because ufology has been a government op this whole time. How open-minded and free-thinking are the UFO believers when they've been spoon-fed propaganda from the government for decades? And then how powerful is the government propaganda that what they want us to believe goes into all of our movies, goes into all of our video games and books? I mean, UFOs are so big, UFO culture, and we find out, yeah, that's all government culture. So just like religions have the people believing in angels, and angels that might mate with you or beam you up and rapture you, angels that watch over you and study you. They gave the masses angels in the form of aliens that do all the same things. It's always lights in the sky. How are angels described? Angels are messengers of light. So what they've done is they've given us a secular version of angels that people who don't believe in God believe in. They told us, but they said, oh, we just want the conspiracy theorists to think they're UFOs so they don't recognize, high-tech aircraft. That's their explanation for decades and decades of UFO programming. No, the UFO programming is part of the state religion. If you believe in UFOs, they've won because you're a believer. That's the main distinction between what we're doing and what the MSM and MSM Plus people do. If you're in their simulation, you are a believer by default because you've outsourced quite a bit of your intelligence gathering and you've put some trust. That's the error. I'm a non-believer, but the things I don't believe that other people believe, I'm highly informed about. So the irony is, the informed disbeliever knows more about the bullshit they believe, that they defend. And it's like, what are you defending it on? That's the challenge. You challenge them. What are you defending this belief on? Well, I read the headline. I saw a headline, so it's true. I saw a picture. Okay, well, you're a low information believer by definition. So what we're doing here is we're identifying how people process information. You've got low information believers, high information disbelievers. If the high information provides evidence sufficient to declare the thing is true, then you're not a believer. You're a knower and an understander. So there's a fundamental distinction between the understander who tolerates ambiguity, suspension of judgment, and the believers who go off of low information. So the irony is that the truthers have been turned into low information believers of their own propaganda and low information disbelievers of the other side. They're not any more informed. They're just mired in alternative shadows on the wall in a cave next to Plato's cave. You got Plato's cave, and then you have the alternative one, where you've got Alex Jonestown and Q Street, where they're practically handing out red pills, which we know what those are. Every red pill is a limited hangout operation designed mind virus intended to keep you under their control. If they got you in the red pill ideology, guess what? You're in a subset of far right, woke right politics. These things are all interconnected. And it's insidious. I've seen it work. I thought that's interesting how they're kind of grafting this alternative version of the far left with, like, instead of like feminists, you've got Andrew Tate. So you've got this like toxic masculinity as an answer to toxic femininity. So they engineered this through a number of characters, a number of propagandists, and we've observed this. And what they've done is they've co-opted free thinkers who go into conspiracy theories and turned them into Trump supporters, Trump voters, hopium addicts, on a steady diet of nothing burgers, waiting for some revelation from Epstein. Waiting for P. Diddy's trial to show that all these people are compromised. And then Trump comes out and he's like, yeah, I'm going to let Epstein go. And I'm going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. And Diddy, yeah, I'm going to pardon him too. Like, how's that 5D chess working for you now? The people who are like, oh yeah, he's just playing the system. Like, oh, the reason why he brought up this Epstein thing is the Barbra Streisand effect. So everybody looks at it and then they're going to reveal it. There was never anything there. Penguinati Auto Hoaxer says the aliens ghost wrote Miragemen for the Air Force to protect their alien domination of the Earth. Can't really refute that. That's actually what some of them say. They say, oh no, the cover story was put out there to hide the fact that it's real. Like, the reason why we don't get any documents from Epstein is because it's real. The reason there's no evidence is it's a cover-up. And the idea here, I think it's by design, is that the cover-up now becomes an excuse to maintain the story. And the fundamental story behind Epstein is it reveals that America, the superpower, is actually controlled by Israel. That's the real story. It's the core of it. It's the main thing. All the Pizzagate, the satanic ritual stuff, the children being trafficked in tunnels, the JFK coming back to life to fight Hillary Clinton, all of that is just distraction that gets you to accept the basic core. And once you accept the basic core, you're in their box. You're in a kill box. But yeah, we're just a few days away from August 4th. So I'm going to do my best to get into a new facility by the 4th. I'm very optimistic about it. This next place. When I kind of looked back at my productivity levels, I realized that no, I wasn't really maxing out what I could be. I think I could do a lot better. And plus, AI, I gotta say, has just been helpful in every single instance. I've got some video content I have to release. This AI stuff is just really just cutting edge. Like, if I don't have time to watch a YouTube video, you just copy and paste the link here, you get a synopsis. I read somewhere it's like AI is making people dumber. Like, no, I don't think it is. It's an improvement. When you're talking about just moving around information, you know, the labor part of it. Well, anyway, I saw the hopium. Obama's gonna get arrested next, then Clinton. And Trump tweets something on Truth Social, and I don't know, it doesn't hit like it used to. So should we take bets, though? Is 8-4 going to be another 7-13? Should we go ahead and take bets? And I've followed Drastic Liars. We've looked at our own Metascript analysis. And the idea that 8-4 would be expected is still very consistent, considering 7-13 occurred at 6-11. 84 days later, he goes back. Now, this year on 6/11, on June 11th, Trump's hanging out at the JFK Center, and the photo has him with his hands out, like stigmata, red light on his hands, and then behind him is an oversized JFK bust, perfectly lined up with his own head. They've been telegraphing this thing for so long, and I don't see it lasting another year, because they hyped up this Obama thing so much. Just the last few months. They dust him out once in a while. They dust him off, they bring him out, remind us he exists. But I think we should take bets. Because Drastic Liars has kept it open to the idea that Seattle could happen after. I saw the tsunami warnings, and I saw this map of America in the Pacific Northwest, and I could see the top of Washington where it looks like Elvis, like his face looking out to the west. Did you all see that? But I noticed that there's still this tendency among many people in the whole truther realm to look for signs, waiting for the end to begin, as though noticing it 5 seconds before the rest of the world's gonna help out anymore. Like no one's gonna pat you on the back. Oh, you tweeted it first, before 50 other breaking news agencies did so. At this point, you're almost better off staying 3 days behind the news cycle and responding when the emotion is past, when all the loosh harvesting, when the loosh harvesters pass over the cities and soak up all the psychic energy from the people plugged into this thing. That's when they want you plugged into the stuff. So if you unplug, you give yourself 3 days, they're not going to get anything out of you. Your loosh bank's not going to be grabbled at night while you sleep, like Netflix taking a payment because you forgot that you had a free trial. Yeah, that happens to me a lot. Like I'm walking into a store to get groceries, and then, oh, Google One just took some money, or this trial ran out. But that's kind of how this matrix works. It's emotional manipulation 101. Like when somebody has their pitch, and if you miss it, it doesn't hit the same when they have to deliver it again and again. You have to like let them throw out the big story for the big jolt and assume everything's fake until proven real. Fake until proven real is the standard for the skeptic today. If you think there's any benefit of the doubt-do media, you're deluded and you haven't been paying attention. If you're not auto-hoaxing, you're not paying attention. It's not if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. If you're angry, you're paying attention to the wrong stuff. Penguinati says, Behold a Pale Horse predicted JFK might be brought back to life, which is a random prediction in that book's context. Yeah, there's this older bit of conspiracy lit about the Kennedys as the secret kings ruling from this island. And apparently it was kind of big and underground. And the modern resurrection of JFK and JFK Jr. Is kind of an iteration of that. So it doesn't mean there's truth to it. Like JFK not dying, not really hard to understand. JFK Jr. faking his death, supported with all the Kubrick connections and otherwise. But coming back with MAGA, I don't know. It's almost like that was engineered as part of this MAGA cult. But as far as it being played out on the world stage, no, there's something with that though. It's kind of like Tupac or Elvis. I think there are some people who think that Elvis and Bruce Lee are hanging out with Michael Jackson and Marilyn Monroe, and that Donald Trump is the son of General Patton. What's up, Conscious Reality? PsyOp Sidecar. So the next few dates, again, we're looking forward to is 8/4. Will Trump be in Ohio? According to the prophecy of Jurassic Liars, he will be in Ohio for that, which is area code, I think Cleveland is 216. And look, I'm still somewhat open to the idea that the 6/11 scenario could easily happen on 11/6. Just like we had our sights on November the 3rd for World War III beginning in Seattle, and we got March the 11th, so 3/11, when the pandemic was declared. So, you know, we're generally pretty accurate with this. Yeah, okay, Hulk Hogan passing on the 10th anniversary of him using the racist rant. That's significant. Then you had his twin dying, well, the big fan. And then again, Trump shows up at RNC and Hulk Hogan speaks and says, hey, seeing you bloody on TV reminded me of me at Hulkamania. So you got Hulk Hogan, HH88, which stands for Hail Hitler. The Canadian truckers, honk honk, was Hail Hitler. So you have that. And then you have this. The predictive programming in Captain America has the president, played by Harrison Ford, who was born on 7/13, on a trailer that was released the day before 7/13, getting shot at the podium. He becomes the Red Hulk. So he's the Trump character, Red Hulk, which makes me think MAGA. So then they have Hulk Hogan in red. I mean, there's something there. And then Mickey 17, Mark Ruffalo, born on JFK's death day, plays a Trump-like character who survives an assassination attempt, poses for the cameras. So there's something going on here. But he played the Green Hulk. So you got these two presidents or two characters standing for Trump, each of them connected to the Hulk thing, and then Trump and the Hulk Hogan thing. And so now if Red MAGA means, or if Red Hulk means MAGA in its extreme form, like far-right MAGA, well, that's referring to the racist end. The racist, anti-Semitic, America first, sexist, that group would be typified by the Red Hulk. Jeremiah May says, have you seen the trend of people eating in their cars on Instagram? No, I have seen. And when I see people eating, like I saw Cardi B eating like a lobster, shell and everything. I don't care. But she's like talking while eating and spitting out bits of shell. I mean, things you can do when you're rich and get away with it. But I wouldn't want to subject somebody to that. I've seen the trend, I've noticed it. When I see TikTok people with their bug eyes wagging their finger, I turn it off. I can't handle that. Or hear the spooky music, the conspiracy music, I can't handle it. So then, okay, so is there a connection between the timing of Ozzy's death with his bat throne, the whole bat thing, Corona? There's something. So you got the Ozzy thing and Hulk in, adjacent to one another. Well, Ozzy and Oz is always connected, I think, symbolically to the Emerald City, Seattle scenario. Conscious Reality says, this is what I feel the agenda is about to happen, another race war. Well, as we speak, as we speak, the base, white nationalists are training paramilitary. America First is organizing. Nick Fuentes is being elevated. So there's something going on with this division on the right, where they've made a distinction between the, quote, woke right, which is the racist, anti-Semitic, sexist side, and the more moderate neocon types. But the sinner's callback in that shooter got me thinking, Blackstone compared to Luigi. When I saw that, I said, is this a black Luigi? And then somebody said that the CEO had been Luigi'd. All right, my phone battery is about to die. Hey, thank you so much, Frank Murr. Appreciate that. Lean says the race propaganda is dividing people. Look what they did with Shiloh Hendricks and Anthony Carmelo with the GoFundMe, where each side is just saying the worst thing about the other side. And now you have the far right calling for segregation, get out of the cities, always just racial agitprop all over X. It's insane. It's a toxic platform, and it's not real life. And what they're doing clearly is recruiting. They're recruiting. This stuff's being enabled. This is disease X. And one more thing before my battery dies. In the Superman movie, the Lex Luthor character is definitely Musk. Just like in Mountainhead, the Musk guy is letting the world go crazy because of his website and generative AI. In the Superman movie, it's a bunch of rage monkeys typing hate on the internet, literal monkeys. And we've already connected monkeys